Welcome to another development video. In this video, I will quickly introduce you to the sculpting functionalities that can be found in the next release. Take note that these tools are in no way supposed to replace ZBrush or the advanced sculpting functionalities in Blender. They are strictly there to allow you to adjust, modify, deform existing geometry that have already been imported inside your project. And due to the nature and the flexibility of these tools, it can also be used to, in example, create terrains or things like that. So I am going to quickly introduce you to them. So we got Earthquake, my man here. We're going to select a more simple model here. I'm having a sphere. And the way it's working, it's basically simple. Select an object. In the viewport, we now have the paint button. As soon as we click on the paint, we have access to the new paint tools that will be available in the next version. And I am going to click on Vertex Sculpting, and I am now ready to start sculpting my geometry. For better visualization, I can go straight at the bottom here and generate a matte cap shader that will be placed at the root of your project, and I can start sculpting right away. We have the strength and the radius of the brush that can be adjusted using the mouse and keyboard, and you have access to all the basic brush that you would be used to found in any sculpting software. So the brush here, we got the draw erase. Draw will allow you to carve on the surface or inside the surface by alternating between the add or subtract, or simply hold the control key. At any time, you can hold shift and simply erase whatever you have done, just like that, and restore back the geometry to its original form before the sculpting gets started. You can also use the version slider that is connected to Control Z and Control Y to undo and redo part of the sculpting. And we have also the spacing here that allow you to determine the amount of space between the stroke. If I do something like that with a bigger strength, you can see that now I'm having more like a dot, dot, dot kind of pattern. And the factor is going to increase the overall factor of my brush based on the distance and the actual strength that I am applying, just like that. And we also have stabilize that act also as a lazy mouse. So if I put something like 0.1, let me undo that. And I start drawing on my sphere here. You can see that now I can have a very smooth stroke, and there's a delay between my cursor and my mouse. We can select between two methods, triangle, which is the default one that would pick the nearest point on a triangle, but we can also choose vertex, and vertex allow us to go out of bound and directly select the closest vertex in the ray direction of the cursor. So if I undo that, and let's say that I shrink down the space and increase the factor, I am now going to be able to extrude and pull my geometry just like that, a bit like what Snake Hook is doing. We also have the standard brush also to smooth and flatten the surface, and we have the grab brush here. And if I quickly demonstrate that, we are also able to change the type of the brush itself. By default, it is a circle. We can also select between a square. And if we do that, we're going to be able to have something that it's more like a clay strip that is going to allow you to carve and create some sort of rocky type of surfaces. We also have a stripe, which allow us to have it just like a clay stripe that is applied here. And we can also have a diamond, which is basically two triangle on top of each other. By default, auto rotation is on, so that based on the direction of my stroke, the shape will be adjusted. I can also add a rotational offset. Let's use the strip to demonstrate that to it. And if I turn that off, now I got this direction and this direction, so we can create combination. And of course, we can also enable the auto to have the rotational offset plus the direction of the brush, just like this. We can also change the fall off we got a bunch of presets: smooth, sphere, sharp, linear, and constant. Or we can select custom and simply gain access to the curve picker, and we can create our own fall off. And now if I draw on my surface, let's restore back to circle, we can have some custom fall off base for our brush, just like this. So we also have the last few here that are the move brushes. I'm going to switch back to, let's say, Suzanne, and let's assign Suzanne a default matte cap. Let's apply that. Select Suzanne, apply the matte cap, and restore back to smooth. And using, I'm going to go on Vertex, and I'm going to go on, let's say, grab, and I'm going to select an example, the eye, and I'm able to extrude directly, grab and pull directly, just like that. I am also able to deform, which is ideal when we're dealing with terrain. I can simply push and pull my geometry in an arbitrary direction, just like that. And in case the cursor is not the color, depending, now I'm using the matte cap, it is pretty visible, but depending if you are using a custom shader to carve, an example, a terrain or something like that, you might want to change this color to be something more visible at any time, just like that. And that basically concludes the basic option of sculpting that will be available in the next version. In another video, in a subsequent video, I will demonstrate how to use them in a real world scenario, and we're going to be creating a terrain.